The first thing we're going to do is we're going to just do a visual inspection of our rough opening. This particular rough opening is a 3050, so it's 36 inches by 60 inches high. So one of the first things we're going to do with our rough opening is we're going to just come through and make sure that it's square enough. Most of the time, these are not perfect, but that's what our shims are for. So this particular rough opening is pretty squared off, level, level, level. Another thing that we want to do in our visual inspection is we want to make sure that there's no debris or any other material that's going to impede our ability to put this window in this cavity. As you can see, this particular neighborhood uses a T-ply board. So what we run into in the past is those who cut it out, they don't cut it perfect to the rough opening. It'll overhang. That overhang into the window cavity will cause the window to not move properly within the cabinet. So you want to make sure that none of that is hanging over and impeding the window. So now that we've done our inspection of this rough opening, it looks pretty good. The first step is our sill pan. Many different ways to install the sill pan. Different products exist. Asphalt paper, flex tape. There's pre-made plastic material that you could purchase to install a sill pan. For today in this particular neighborhood, what we're going to use is asphalt paper and butyl tape to protect our corners. Now, no matter what product you buy, one of the more important things to remember when you're installing your sill pan is not only the complete coverage of the sill, but that you have at least 6 inches on the upturned leg protected as well. Now, this is a 3050, as we said before, so that means that I need a 4-foot piece to accommodate the length or the width of the window, plus my 6 inches on each side. So this particular piece was pre-cut to 4 feet. So what I'm going to do is fold. I'm going to find the center of the window here. I'm just going to let it fall out. I'm going to take my staple. I'm going to pop a couple of staples towards the back of the sill pan. Now, if at all possible, try and keep your staples on the back side of the windowsill, not so much in this main area, trying to prevent as less holes as possible to go into the area that's supposed to be protected by water, from water. So we're going to come through on this corner. We want to make sure this corner is nice and creased. We don't want it to be sitting up like this and create this angle. All right, we want this pushed down and tight. If it's up like this, you're going to have a hard time getting your window into this cavity. So we're going to push this in nice and tight. Pop here. We're going to come through, do the same thing. Get that crease going. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a blade, come to this corner, and we're going to cut out at an angle. Same thing, find the corner, come out at an angle, and then we're going to bring the upturned leg around, out of the way. Same thing here. Now, if your windowsill extends past into the other, I just kind of like to wrap it into the other side. Just helps to create a better water barrier. Now, this part is going to be used by a different subcontractor, or they'll cut it away if they don't need it. So typically, it doesn't need to be tacked down, but you can put one staple in there just to keep it from the wind from becoming a nuisance. So now that we have the first portion of our sill pan in, since we cut our water resistant barrier, what we've done is we've exposed the corners here. So the next step in finishing out the sill pan is protecting these corners. So what we're going to do is we're going to use flashing tape or butyl tape here. Go ahead and fold it. Same principle. You want it to be tight into this corner. I'm going to roll this up here. So now I have my corner protected on the inside but not the outside. So now what I'm going to have to do is score this just a bit. Cut my little triangle here. And that's going to allow me to push and pull down over that corner. And now we've protected, we've got that corner all covered up. And
protected from any sort of water infiltration. Gonna come through, do the same thing on the second side. Let's fold in a little bit here. Place that there in the corner. Get that friction in there. Get that down. Put our little triangle. Then again, we're just gonna pull and push. We're gonna pull and push down at the same time to get that nice and tight over that corner. So ensure that corner right there is what we're after to protect.
And that's the installation of our sill pan. All right, so now we've got our sill pan installed and we're almost ready to go and start and putting this window in the cavity. The first thing that you want to do before you set the window is you have to caulk the window on the nail flange or the nail fin here. What's important to note is that you will caulk the both jambs, the header. You will not caulk the bottom. Do not caulk the bottom. We're going to screw the bottom on, but we're not going to caulk the bottom. So if water does somehow get underneath, we're giving it a path to get out of the house, not come into the house. Okay. So the other thing to note whenever you're caulking is you don't want to put your caulk gun here in the corner and run it down. That's not going to help anything. What you want to do is you want to have a 3/8 nominal bead of caulk inside the nail fin holes, just straight up. Because if you put it in the corner, the caulk is actually not going to touch the wood because the window itself is 1/2 inch shorter than the cavity itself. So we're going to pop that through the nail holes here. So now our window is caulked. One quick side note about the silicone is you can't go to Home Depot and just grab a basic tube of caulk. This caulk here is made by a company called Trimco. It's a Trim Glaze U1600. There's several types of caulk out there, but what we want to make sure is that the caulk is AMA approved for window and door fenestration installation. So the type of caulk you use is important. So now we have our window is caulked. It's ready to go into the rough opening. We've got our helper Austin outside to help. Always remember, window installation is always at least a 2-man job, right? So Austin's going to be out here. Now, what I like to do is I don't like them up with the windows on ladders. So we always pass the windows we're going to open the window here, and I'm going to pass the window out to him, and then he's going to help guide it, and I'm going to set it into the cavity. He's going to assist. All right, so come through here, bring the window out, bring the window up, set, and then just make sure it's in on the corners, on the top. Now we're going to go ahead and close and lock our window, so we're going to start the shimming process. Now, every window has the instructions on how to properly install their window. Always, always, always follow the manufacturer's instructions on window installation. This video, I'm going to talk about how we do installs. Somebody else's video might deviate from mine, but no matter what, always follow the manufacturer's instructions. Failure to do so will void the warranty from the manufacturer. So this particular instruction set not only tells you what to do, it gives you recommended shim placement and other guidelines on what not to do, not to over shim, so on and so forth. So as you can see, when we set the window in the hole naturally, we had the window cant to one side or the other. Right now, these, like every window comes, unless you order it custom, but the window is going to come a half an inch short and a half an inch in width, less in width than the rough opening itself. So what that means is that we should have a 1/4 inch of space all the way around the window. So as you can see, when we set this window is automatically out of square with no shims. And this is why it's imperative that you use shims. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do, this little pry bar from Home Depot, it comes in a 3-pack. This thing is a lifesaver when it comes to helping manipulate the window, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with what the window should look like, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to take my pry bar here, kind of pop up here, pop my shim under the bottom. Now, I am using the smaller side to give the window a little bit of a downward slope when we install it. But now we have a big gap on the top and no gap over here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop my pry bar here and just put me a shim right there. So now I've got some space on the bottom. I've got space on the top and around. Looks like I have a little too much space over here. So I'm just going to take my pry bar and just kind of move it over a little bit to start the shimming process. Now, since I've made some space, windows, they have a memory, so if there's a mess with it, it'll start to slide back over. So I'm going to put a shim here in the bottom to keep it from moving. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Pop a shim in here. Pop a shim in there to keep it from moving around. Okay. So now I have what the manufacturer says I should have when it comes to this window. So now that I have these shims in here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the operation of the window. The window needs to open smoothly, it needs to close smoothly, and it needs to lock smoothly. If it does those 3 things, we're in the green. So now I'm going to close, and then I'm going to lock. Now, this locks smoothly, this does not. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this window down just to where it touches on one side or the other. So now, as you can see, this window is out of square. Since this window is out of square, whenever we push down, this lock is higher than the lock keeper, and it won't let it lock in place, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to square up our window. What I like to do is go ahead and get that reveal back open, take a step back. So now, to get a window back into square, it's super simple to do. All right, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to raise the side of the side of the window that is higher or is open, right? So I'm going to take my pry bar here, get this under here, gets probably a little more, break this shim off, open this up. Okay. The second part is the side that has the gap, you have to raise up, but then the opposite corner has to kick over, right? So we come through here, pop a shim right there. And so now that we've raised it up on this side, we brought it over this way. Now you can see that the reveal has leveled itself out. So now that the reveal has leveled itself out, when I go to lock that window, it locked in nice and smooth. So now this particular window is at least squared. So we have good smooth operation of the window. We have good smooth operation of the locks. Now I'm going to take my level. I'm going to check the mid rail. Looks like we're good to go there. I'm going to check my jam. Looks like I'm good to go there. And then I'm good to go there. All right, so now I have a squared window. I have a leveled window. So now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to ask my helper. So he's going to put in. All right, so now that our helper has popped in 2 screws, though we're not done with the shimming process yet. What we want to do is, now that he's got it tacked in place, we want to recheck our operation. So I open, I close, I lock smoothly. Now, the shims that are in place are for functionality, but there's a couple of extra places that we want to make sure we put shims. So one of the more important spots to put shims is here at the mid rail, right? But now that I know that the window is functional operational, I'm going to put the shims in, but I want to make sure I'm not over tightening the shims and then messing up the functionality of the window. Oh, that thing's just all. So I'm going to put some shims here at my mid rail. Now, watch this. So this note right here says, please note that over-shimming will result in overbowing, crowning, prevent from opening properly. So this particular reveal here in this accessory groove here, when I went to push this shim, see how it pushes this in too much? That is over shimming. this shim is too tight in this particular frame. So whenever you notice something like that, pop it out, start back over, and just make sure that whenever you are popping stuff in here, you're not over shimming, creating problems with the operation of the window. So I have functionality, I have my shims up here, and then we're just gonna pop a shim right here at the top. Just to keep it in place. So now I have mid rails, I have 2 shims at the top after checking functionality. And now the last thing I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to open this window, close this window, and I'm going to lock this window. This window is now, again, remained square. It remained level. It's tacked in only with 2 screws at the moment. So now this window is ready to be screwed in from the backside. We're going to go take a look. Okay, so now once this window's in, I've checked all the functionality. It was tacked in place. Now Austin's going to go ahead, just start in the center right there at the top, and he's going to work his way over every other nail hole. Now it is we say a nail hole. We are actually using screws. This is a number 8 panhead screw. Things people have used roof capping nails with the plastic ends. That's a no-fly zone. Those don't work. The manufacturers, in fact, can you hand me that right there on the ground? Some people I have seen installers use something like this. This is not acceptable at all, and the inspector will flag this and call you out. All right, so now that we've secured the window with our number 8 screw, panhead screw, the last step in this process is we're going to apply the flashing tape. So the first portion of the flashing tape that we're going to install are going to be the jambs. Now, it's important that the side extends past the header at least 2 inches, as Austin has done here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to run that tape right along the edge of the window here, all the way down, and then we're going to extend past the bottom of the window as well. So not only creating an overlapping effect, but yet again, we're still protecting that corner that we had to cut earlier with our sill pan. So now we got one side on. It's going to pop that other side off there. And then finally what we're going to do is we're going to flash the header. Now it's important to remember that the start of the header and the end of the header needs to be past the flashing tape on the jambs. You don't want to. It needs to extend past in order to create a true weatherboard fashion overlap. And this is a finished product on a window installation. Again, please note that not only did we not caulk the bottom, but we also didn't put any sort of flashing tape underneath the window to allow water a path to escape if somehow it gets in underneath the window. And this concludes how to install the window. Thanks for watching.